Okay, so I want to shoot a short video on the topic of icon veneration. I've been watching the debate between Dr. Gavin Ortlund and Father Stephen DeYoung. And one of the topics that they've been discussing is the topic of icon veneration. And I think the most important point is actually missed when this topic comes up. Now, Dr. Ortlund is basically pointing out that prior to the 6th century, no church father has ever advocated icon veneration. And I tend to agree with him that icon veneration is in fact a later development. It wasn't practiced in the early church. It certainly wasn't practiced by the apostles. It is a later development. However, where I disagree with him is that this should be the decisive criteria um, for practicing or not practicing icon veneration. I mean, his argument seems to be that since it is a later development, it has to be wrong. And I don't think that this is a viable argument, because the most important criteria, if icon veneration is right or wrong, is not the question when it appeared, but it is the question, how did God react to that? Is God opposing this kind of icon veneration, or is God okay with icon veneration, or is he actually even reinforcing and enforcing icon veneration, stimulating it in some way? I think that should be the only criteria that's important in this case. What is God's opinion on this? And we know as Orthodox Christians and also the Catholics that for whatever strange reason, God is answering such prayers and has been answering such prayers since centuries. I would say since, I don't know, 1,700 years or 1,600 years or whatever. For a pretty long period of time, God has been constantly answering prayers directed to icons. For whatever reason, I agree with Dr. Ortlund that it's not scriptural. It isn't in scriptures. I agree that it's a later development, but for whatever strange reason, God made the decision to answer such prayers. And by answering such prayers, God is actually reinforcing that practice, because if I pray to an icon for a miracle and God is answering my prayer and I get the miracle, guess what happens? Well, I will talk about this, what happened to me, to my wife, my neighbor, my brother, my sister, my kids, my grandfather, whatever, and they will start doing the same. They will start praying to icons. And if their prayers get answered by God, then guess what happens? They will talk to their neighbors and their wives and their kids and so on and so forth. So all of a sudden, it spreads around the church and it becomes a practice. And this is what happened, actually. We keep praying to icons in the Orthodox Church because we know it works. We don't know why God is answering such prayers, but who am I to ask God and to say, God, the scripture doesn't say that, we should be praying to icons, so please stop answering those prayers. That would be ridiculous. I mean, at the end of the day, for whatever strange reason, God is answering those prayers, and he's been doing that for centuries. And that's the only thing that counts, in my opinion. Even if it's later development, which I would say it is, even if church fathers in the early church were not advocating it, which seems to be the case. But since God is answering such prayers, that's all I need to know. And I have to accept that, I think. I mean, basically, there's no reason to debate it and to say it's wrong when God is actually saying the opposite, or seems to be saying the opposite, at least by answering those prayers. And so I think, unfortunately, in this debate, for whatever reason, both Gavin Ortlund and Stephen DeYoung are missing that point, are not discussing this issue, the fact that praying to icons works, and that this is the most important thing, actually, for a Christian who believes in God. God's reaction should be the most important thing to judge if a certain practice is right or wrong. And yeah, I would hope that in later debates, if they discuss this issue once again sometimes, or if Dr. Ortlund discusses this issue with someone else, I would hope that they talk about this topic as well, God's reaction to those things. And yeah, it would be interesting to have their opinion on this. So thanks very much, everyone, and God bless.